Welcome back to the State and Local Sports Show. Here with Mark Tennis, co-founder and editor of CaliSports.com. An historic week for boys basketball in San Joaquin County. Manteca High won its first ever state title, the first for the city, the first public school boys basketball team in this county since 1928 when the now closed Stockton High did it. And amazing, it was like a scene out of Hoosiers. They busted apart nearly the entire school, and parts of the entire town were out to support them. I was riding along there on the bus. They beat Ayala of Chino Hills 60-51 last Thursday. Mark, you were there for not just that game, but all the games. Your impression, not just of that game, but of Kenny Wooten's performance. 24 points, 18 rebounds, 9 blocks. It has to be one of the more clutch state finals performances you've seen.
It definitely was very clutch. I think the matchup was very favorable for him in that game. The block shots, we don't have a state record category in the state finals for block shots. It might have been a record. We don't know. I would say that after all the games, Frank Burleson, who's a very highly respected Southern California analyst, described Wooten as one of the top shot blockers on the West Coast. So when you impress him, that's a very big thing. Also, shout out to all the support Manteca got. I would say of all the teams that were in the state finals, boys and girls at Manteca did the best job of showing up in terms of having the band, the rooters, the energy, everything you want to look for in a state final. So big shout out to the city, to the people. They did a great job and really, were better than any other school that was there.
And that's saying something. I mean, tons of Northern California schools there, including a couple from the Sacramento area. I mean, when they left the stadium, under the bowels of the stadium, it seemed like the entire city was there. Maybe not quite literally, but pretty incredible. Next year, the CIF State Finals go to the Golden One Center. That is the sparkling new home of the Kings in downtown Sacramento. Less nostalgia, but more modernism, I would say. It's, of course, any new arena, they're going to market it as state of the art, and from what I've heard, it is. And, this agreement comes with a relatively cheap $25,000 price tag. What you said is pretty much the same thing as what they're getting with Sleep Train. What were your thoughts when you heard about this new agreement?
When I heard that it was pretty much the same price for a new arena, it's kind of an easy decision for the CIF to choose it. I think the only reason the CIF would be a little reluctant to go back to Golden One Center is that, if you remember, the football is now in the north, and they have the basketball in the north, and they really do want to have a sense of state championships, some being in the north and some being in the south. But when the price tag came in as it did, there really was a no-brainer for them to continue to stay in Sacramento.
Now is the question. I mean, as it stands right now, the Sac Joaquin section is the only section in the United States that plays its finals at an NBA venue. We have to decide now where the Northern California finals are and where the Sac Joaquin section finals will be. A couple of thoughts right off the top of my head. I know you mentioned that Haas Pavilion in Berkeley hasn't placed a bid, but looking at Spano Center at UOP, that could be a nice mix of kind of a larger stadium feel, but if it's full, it could actually feel full, unlike an NBA venue. It's still very much up in the air. Is anywhere pop into your mind where you might see those games next year?
As far as the NorCal finals, which this year we're at Arco Arena, Sleep Train Arena, I think the CIF is going to seriously look at having those games at home sites. So in other words, Manteca this year would have, since they were the higher seeded team, they would have played their NorCal final at home in their home gym or at a suitable nearby gym. I think if you look at some of the events the CIF has had in the past, especially in soccer in the South, they've gotten better attendance when they've had it at home sites than at a neutral place in the middle. So I think that's going to be a real possibility. And there's other things they may tinker with basketball, all kinds of different things. And in the Open Division and Division I, we'll just see how it works. But I think they're open to trying a lot of different things.
And Mark Tennis does a weekly column for us, kind of related to this. He mentions the CIF Executive Director, Roger Blake, holds a yearly press conference after the basketball finals. What did you pick up from that experience there on Saturday?
Well, a lot of it was memories of the arena we were about to leave for the last time. And some of it was that. Some of it was looking to the future, different tinkering with the formats, as we mentioned, the home sites being for the regional finals, and just some stuff about transfers, all kinds of different topics. The ones that related mostly locally were the home sites for the NorCal finals, and then some talk about, we mentioned a couple of weeks ago about soccer being a state final, state event. I think that could be in about 2 years. So that's on track, definitely on track for soccer.
The grand finale was Chino Hills finishing its 35-0 season as the national #1 boys basketball team, beating De La Salle of Concord 70-50. De La Salle led 20-14 after the first, 30-28 at halftime, but Chino Hills' amazing athleticism in the open court just kind of took over. I mean, 1,800-point games this year, like I mentioned. They outscored De La Salle 42-20 in the second half. I mean, how do they stack up all time? I know it's tough to say on a national basis, but at least in California.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it statistically, from a statistical dominance point of view, like the teams they play, not just in California, but the teams they played around the country, you can say in terms of how much they dominated their opponents, they would have to be in the conversation, maybe be the greatest team of all time. I'm one that always likes to leave a little room for teams to move up over the years. And this Chino Hills team is probably only going to move up because we don't know Alonzo Ball is going to turn out as a pro. And we're going to have to wait a long time for a couple of their players because they're still going to be in high school for 3 more years. I think some of the most impressive things I heard about Chino Hills, number one, was that LaMelo Ball, who is the freshman, was actually moved up to be on the varsity this year. He should be in the 8th grade. He's just turned 14 years old. And that's amazing, you think about that.
Yeah.
You think about that. Because most freshmen are kids who are turning 16 right now, like the one from Harvard Westlake who was in this year's. But here's a kid who they actually sped up his cycle as a basketball player, made him a 9th grader a year faster than a lot of kids so he could have the experience of being with his 2 older brothers. So it's a great story. You know, there's some other great teams like Compton in the 1960s, McClymonds from 58 to 1960 would have to be in the discussion. These are teams that had much better depth than Chino Hills. And when you watch Chino Hills, you're impressed by how calm and cool they are when they're behind or anything like that. But you're also, you know, there's only 5 guys. They don't have any depth. And a couple of them are really kids. And we've seen some teams over the years where there are 10, 11, 12 almost grown men out there flying and dunking and slamming. And you kind of wonder how they would match up against those teams. But statistically, you look at all their numbers, they're right up there.
And heading to the spring sports season, Tracy baseball went from unranked in NorCal Preps, Northern California ranks, up to number 12 this week. That's because they got a win over Elk Grove in the Boris Classic tournament in Sacramento. Elk Grove, an 8-time section champion, the defending Division I champion. Now, Tracy is in the Division I South when you get to the playoffs in this section, which can help them because the North has most of the powerhouses, teams like Davis, Jesuit, Oak Ridge, and Elk Grove, all of whom were ranked ahead of Tracy in those NorCal Preps rankings. They kind of have to beat up on each other in the playoffs. And this year, from what I believe I last saw, the Division I finals have moved from Sacramento down to Klein Family Field at UOP, so not quite a home field advantage, but closer to home than the field they're used to if Tracy were to make it that far. I mean, is that helpful, you think, kind of being away, letting some of the big boys beat each other up, and then, hey, you got a 3-game series, you go out and throw 2 aces with your guys, and they got great pitchers, anything can happen.
Yeah, I think you can do that at any level of baseball, anything can happen. I think those other teams, if you keep in mind, Jesuit, Elk Grove, and Davis are also in the same league, so they're going to play each other in the league. And Davis won the Boris Classic in the North, so they're going to play the Southern champion on May 7th at Cal. And they're undefeated, but they're not going to stay undefeated in that league. They'll drop a game or two. Jesuits' only loss is to an out-of-state team. And you mentioned Maria Correa. We have ranked higher in our state top 20 ahead of Tracy. They're all in the bubble in our rankings. But it's going to be interesting. You're right. It could be an advantage when you get to that one game. But, of course, Tracy's got to play other teams where somebody can get hot and beat you. Baseball is by far the most unpredictable, difficult thing to follow, and we'll see how it goes. But you know, Tracy, if they get that far, sure, that could be an advantage. But the other team is going to be maybe more battle tested too.
And it's such a huge kind of extensive bracket for baseball in this section that it goes through different levels because the very first stage, unless you have a bye, you can lose and be done. You hit a certain point after that where it's more of a double elimination thing. So you come out, St. Mary's, who went all the way to the section finals last year, had a miraculous comeback just to win their opening playoff game against Turlock, which is in the second round. So you never know what can happen at that stage.
No, you never know. And the Sac Joaquin is unique in that it is double elimination, and the other sections are you lose once, you're gone almost everywhere you go. San Diego actually has a double elimination format. But in the Sac Joaquin, they set it up so your first round game is on a Friday, so you can pitch your ace in that first game. And so it's not like the other team can save up their ace against your number 3 like you can see sometimes in the weekday series. So you are able to throw your ace in that one game, and then you get to the double elimination where the pitching depth becomes so important.
Tracy High softball hosting one of the better tournaments around this week, the NorCal Classic. That's at Tracy Sports Complex and a bit at West High and another park as well in town. It has Tracy, East Union, and West are all in the Platinum division. I think East Union one of the favorites to at least kind of get through part of that bracket. How does this stack up to, say, some of the better tournaments around the state, even like the Stampede you mentioned to me in Livermore?
Yeah, I think the Livermore Stampede is probably better. It has more teams from different parts of the Bay Area, and the Sac Joaquin all sort of there at the same time, and Middy's in it, and usually one or two from the South Bay. So you have to say the Livermore Stampede is probably the best one. This one has gained a lot of traction in recent years, mainly because East Union's in it. And it's really gives East Union one of the best chances to really show its strength because they don't have a very strong schedule. And this year, Clovis is coming up from the Central section, and Clovis is the #1 team in the Central section. And we actually have Clovis 16th in the state this week. Clovis only has one loss, but it's to a team from Arizona. And, of course, East Union's undefeated. So we're kind of hoping that East Union and Clovis actually play, so it'll help both teams with their strength of schedule and help move them both up in the rankings should they play each other.
The record will be there all 3 days of the tournament. I'll be out there on Thursday, so a bunch of coverage upcoming on that. CaliSports.com, the Gold Club membership, all the insider content, state record books, rankings, less than $20 a year, less than $2 a month, a great deal. Mark, thanks for joining us as always, man.
Thomas, great job.